again, our membership is invited to send in suggestions or whatever. And remember to go to Equestrian Canada website and just Google rule books, and you can find your dressage rule book. I encourage you to download it or take it to Staples and print it and keep familiar with it. Dressage is a different discipline. Obviously, you have a steward there. I do too, but we don't do tech checks. So that's gives you, one-on-one conversation with your steward. So we got lots of material tonight to cover. So I want to thank you all for attending, and we'll have a chance to answer some questions. Put them in the chat or put your hand up, and we'll try to answer your questions. But I'm going to turn it over to Dawn Brown. And Dawn, it's all
Okay.
yours.
Yes, I kind of fell down the rabbit hole when I started going through these rules. So there's a lot of pages. I may just skim over things. But Deanna was talking about rule changes. And right now, it's until May, anybody who has an EC Sport license can put in a rule change proposal. So if there's a rule you don't like or something that you think that maybe they should change, you can go in and find the portal on the rules page to make you propose a rule change anyway, and then they review it, and they might get it or they might not get it. I've done made a few changes anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, dressage. Equestrian Canada. I am a steward. There I am. And the goals of stewarding are to help. Oh, we lost it. Anyway, the goals of steward are to help prevent and intervene. Dressage stewards should at all times keep in mind while they are in effect representing EC, they also work for the competition, the competitors, the coaches, and the horses. The horses is a big thing, the welfare of the horses. They have no voice. As well as the officials, judges, veterinarians, equine medication control technicians, and also the spectators. So we're there. Anybody can ask us a question if they have one. I have a lot of spectators who come and have no idea what's going on. They ask me questions. Anyway, the purpose is stewarding. The aim and the purpose is to provide a level fair play for everybody. So, and that includes your drug testing and rules, make sure that all the rules are adhered to. Sport is equally fair for all competitors. Principles of good horsemanship are respected. The best possible conditions for holding a competition are available and safe, and the welfare of the horse is upheld. So that's why we're there, sort of thing. We're not just the police. And we make sure I go around, and one of the first things is who's your first aid and are they here yet, because nobody's to be on a horse mounted until there's first aid on the grounds. And I'm glad they're there, because I don't want to be the one going up to somebody who's fallen off a horse and going, how many fingers do you see? I want somebody else to do that. and it's for your protection. So this is the first page of the prize list, of the Dressage New Brunswick prize list. Now your prize list comes out, and Dressage New Brunswick have now your entry forms online. I do have to see that they have to send a reasonable facsimile to me so that I can make sure everything is in there that is supposed to be in there. And in the rule book, the general rule book, is a whole list of things that need to be in the prize list. And then the prize list also has a lot of house rules, like dog on a leash, no smoking on the grounds, different things like that are important for you to know before you go. So you really should read through your prize list. I know most people just get out the entry form and fill it out, but it is beneficial to everyone if you read through your prize list. Okay. This is one of the mandatory things that has to be on the prize list, and it states that at each competition, there's certain vaccinations now that horses have to have at EC competitions, and there's also a spot where it's on the waiver that you have to sign. And at dressage shows, when you get to the show, you have to sign the waivers because they're not online. Okay, next slide. Try to get through there. Okay, I hereby certify that every horse listed in this is the vaccination again. So that's what's on your waiver. So when the person responsible signs the waiver. So the waiver is signed by a person responsible. And the person responsible, I'm sure everybody has read this little blurb here because they've signed under it. And the person responsible is there, and they need to be at the show. I think you can maybe turn to the next slide. I'm trying to go as fast as I can. Person responsible. The person responsible is responsible and accountable under the violation and penalty provisions of the EC rulebook for the care, training, custody, and performance of the horse. So it's about the horse. The PR may avoid liability under this clause only if the PR can demonstrate on a basis of substantial and credible evidence that he or she did not know or suspect and could not reasonably have known or suspect, even with the exercise of the utmost caution, that a horse for whom PR is responsible and accountable was in breach of any EC rules. And one of the things is that drugs. Person responsible, I didn't put all the rules stuff in there about it. If you want to look it up more, you can look in the rule book. Anyway, person responsible who are prevented of performing their duties, if they can't be at the show, then they are to appoint somebody and to let the office know. Okay. Prize list, names and numbers. So you need the name, signature, EC number, provincial sport organization number of the athlete, the owner, and the person responsible. So all those three people all need to be EC, except, always an exception, a parent. A parent may sign as person responsible for a competitor who is a junior. And there's also, even if a coach, say, takes on the person responsible, the parent or guardian must sign for a junior. And there are also no more temporary horse registrations or sport licenses. That's my little note there for me. Okay, next slide. And this is about the helmets. This has been in there a long time now. Everybody has to wear proper headgear that are approved by EC. And I can still ask somebody to take their helmet off and check it if I think maybe it's not quite right, or I will ask you to adjust it. Anyway, a parent or guardian must sign this for a junior. So this came in a few years ago. When registering for EC sanctioned competitions, athletes must indicate the name of their coach on the entry form or specify that they are self-coached. So it must be, their coach must have that sport license. I'm going to talk about that later. But I just wanted to say here there'll be a place for you to fill that in on the entry form or on the waiver, and it must be filled in. If you don't have a coach that's going to be, and the coach must be there. You can't put somebody else with somebody's name and them not be there to actually be coaching you. You can't put in a coach's name and have somebody else coach you. But you can put in self-coached. So like I said, I want to talk about that later, but it needs to be, you need to fill it out. You have to have some name in there. General rules for falls. This is why we have first aid. It's applicable to all competitors at sanctioned events, falls or accidents or anything. And an examination after a fall is done by your first aid, and we generally call and get somebody there, but it really is the competitor's responsibility to go to first aid, or if they can. But the competition generally will make sure the first aid gets there right away. And so they'll test and, check you all over. And one of the things is concussion. So if you fall off, there's a little form that I will fill out. And there's one little spot that says, is a concussion suspected? And if a concussion is suspected, you won't be able to ride anymore. And you'll go home with another form that is called return to play. Return to sport, anyway. So that will have to go with you, and before you can compete again, you'll have to have a doctor's signature on that. So I just wanted to bring that to attention. Here we are, got the headgear again. I think I already talked about this. At an easy competition, anytime you're mounted, you must have on your helmet. And it must be fastened correctly. We don't have any jogging in that, so. Cruelty and abuse, treatment. Competing with horses with raw or bleeding sores or evidence of other blood on the horse, with the exception of bug bites or other environmental causes. This can be considered abuse or inhuman treatment. And if you have a little rub on your horse's side, maybe your spurs are taking the hair off, you can put a little Vaseline on it, for one thing, to make it, as long as it's not bleeding already, put a little Vaseline on it, and that'll help your leg, maybe a little lubricant, I guess is what I'm looking for. If I see, say, this picture here, I would take a Kleenex and put that on that, and if it came out wet with blood, then you'd be eliminated from that test. And, just think about things like, if you're wearing spurs, maybe you should take them off if you're starting to get a rub on a horse. The other thing is blood in the mouth could also be elimination, but now they've put in that if there's blood in the mouth, because sometimes horses have bit their tongues, the mouth can be rinsed out and then checked later to see if it continues, how bad it is. So it's not immediate elimination if you think that the horse has just bit its tongue. Okay. Schooling of horses. Schooling of horses and ponies at non-championship competitions may only be done by EC sport license holders. And if I can remember before the end of May, I think that this should be in the general book for all shows, because it's not in all shows, but I think it should be. All competing horses and ponies schooling must wear a competition number when outside their stall. So all the time, even if you're just leading your horse around, they have to have their number on so they can be identified. At gold or silver championship shows, schooling can only be done by the competitor. Now, I know we haven't had one here for a while, but we have had them. Says a groom can walk around on them in a long rein. It's okay, but the only one who can school them is the actual rider. Okay, next slide. One thing I didn't do is I didn't get into any para stuff here, really, because we haven't had any para riders for a while. They kind of have their own little section in the rule book. Okay, lunging. Don't make me run across the yard. I have done it before. Lunging, unmounted, and work in hand may only be done by the athlete owner, coach, groom, or person responsible. And it's a designated area, not where, in the morning, if you get up early enough, you can be out. But as soon as somebody shows up with a horse to ride mounted, you'll have to leave that area. And it is not permitted to lunge a mounted horse at the competition. That's what I'm talking about. I've run across the yard before and to stop somebody from doing that. So, communication, two-way communication devices. A lot of people train now. The coaches have mic, I guess, and the rider has earbuds so they can coach them. It's actually quite nice because there's not people yelling in the ring, but you're only allowed to have one earbud in because you need to be able to hear around you, other horses. And absolutely not allowed in the competition arena, or you'll be eliminated. Collars for athletes with denounced hearing impairment anyway are allowed with a written letter from a doctor to use hearing devices. But when they do this, the person calling, there must be somebody standing next to them. Practice arena, lunging again. Some things I got in here twice. So I think we already talked about this. And it says, one thing on there says is that show organizers are not obligated to provide a lunging area. But there are different, you can usually find a spot. Tack, check, and gloves. Athletes are defined athletes under the random tack check. Now we don't do, we haven't done those here because I just don't feel that, we don't have that many horses I can manage to do, and I like to talk to everybody. So we haven't done random tack checks, everybody I check. And when you come out of the ring, come to me. I know everybody wants to talk to you, and the coach wants to talk to you and everything, but you're really supposed to, after you finish your test, you're supposed to come out of the ring and come directly to the steward so they can check you. You have lots of time to talk to everybody else afterwards, but sometimes I'm waving my arms and trying to get people's attention to get them come out. And if you are feeling unwell as soon as you come out of that ring, get off. Like, we don't want you to fall off. If you come to me and I'm checking you and if you make it that far and you're not feeling well, just tell me, I'm not feeling well, may I get off? And you can get off. And if your horse is acting up and you're feeling threatened, or if I feel it's unsafe, I will ask you to dismount, or you can ask me to dismount and I will allow you. But other than that, you stay on your horse. And also, people around you who are with you, please do not touch the horse. I know sometimes people will take a hold of the horse and think they're helping me, but they're really not, because that's distracting the horse. If I am checking the horse, I have control. There's not another, so don't touch the horse. Just let me do my job. I try to talk to you and talk to the horse, and I'm usually pretty successful, and I like horses, so it helps. And I like to try to train them so that be quiet, and because it's to my advantage to have them not be afraid. Anyway, if I find something, I will check their bit and I will check their bridle, different places for all kinds of different things. I can also ask if they have a bonnet on for that to be removed by somebody who's with you, so I can have a check for earplugs, because they're not allowed. And I will check your spurs, and I'll measure your whip at least once. And if I find something, if you've contravened the rules, what we're supposed to do is we show you the rule. I may ask you to come back, and I will show you the rule in my rule book, and then talk to the judge. I can't just eliminate you, but that's how it's supposed to work. That I show you the rule, I tell you first, and then I will show you the rule in hard print, and talk to the judge, and the judge will eliminate you. In other words, you wouldn't get your score. You won't. Anyway, okay. Safety gear again. I think we can go by this. We've had it 3 times. So you have to wear a helmet. This is dress. Vests. Safety vests are allowed. When people started wearing them, I had a judge complain about it, and I said, well, they're legal, So they're safety, so they are allowed. Now you can wear a vest. A vest with white. Well, we have all kinds of colors now. When I first saw the colors come out, I thought, oh no. So I'm gonna read this. At all test levels, athletes may wear jackets or vest or any single color with subtle pinstripes, checks, or tweeds. Striped or multicolored coats or jackets are not permitted. Tasteful and discreet accents, such as a collar or different hue or modest piping or crystal decorations, are acceptable. Protective headgear, socks, stock ties, gloves, riding boots may be a matching color to the coat. Tailcoats are only permitted in 4th level. Permitted contrast piping is allowed. So a lot of things have changed the last few years. I don't know if anybody remembers Robin's red boots a few years ago. Told her mother to put something on her coat to make it match the boots, and that's what she did. She just put a little bit of red. So, okay. Breeches, white, light, or dark. So you can wear black breeches now if you want. And I remember a competitor asking me if they would come in and if she could wear such color with her tail. And I said, yes, you can. She said, I'm going to go home and burn my white breeches. Juniors are, of course, permitted to wear jodhpurs. And ties, bow ties, hunting stocks, and chokers of any color. Gloves, white, light, or any solid color. Boots, dark, plain, without boot crowns. With or without boot crowns, laced or with zippers. And spurs are optional. Most everybody wears them. Extreme or inclement weather. So if it's raining, you can put on a raincoat, of course, or if it's cold. In extreme heat, the competitor may ask the steward for permission. It's the steward's different shows, it's different people who can give permission. So you come to the steward. I always, out of respect, talk to the judge about it and the competition committee. The jacket without to ride without a jacket or vest. When permission is given, competitors must wear safety protected headgear. One or two okay. I feel like that's the same. Oh, here it is. Sleeveless shirts are not allowed, but you can wear your shirt with the collar open if it's really hot. We've had some really scorchers, so you can take your jacket off and wear your shirt with the collar open. If you wear a stock tie, you must pin it down. T-shirts are not permitted. And it talks about a cooling tailored dressage vest. Never seen one of those. Maybe somebody knows about them. Vest color must conform to the rules of the jackets. Okay. Spurs. Kinds of spurs. This picture is a picture of swan spurs, which kind of confused me at first because spurs are supposed. Anyway, spurs are optional at all levels, including young horse classes. Spurs must be made of metal and be a conservative color. The shank must be either curved downward or straight pointing directly back from the center of the spur when on the athlete's boot. Swan spurs are allowed. So when you look at that swan spur, it looks like, wow, it's pointing up. But the neck of it, right from the back of the spur, is supposedly pointing back. So anyway, there's more on spurs on the next page. There. And this was kind of controversial for a while. The arms of the spurs must be smooth. Also, if rowels are used, and a rowel is the little round disc with the little pointy things on it. Okay. They must point directly back from the center of the spur and be mounted vertically. So they're to be mounted vertically. The contact area of the rowel spur must be blunt, smooth, no sharp edges, and free to rotate. So I always spin everybody's spur So down here, metal spurs with round, hard plastic, metal knobs or rotating balls, picture the rotating ball there, are allowed. Rotating balls may be mounted either vertically or horizontally. Spurs with flat discs of any kind with smooth round edges are allowed. Such spurs are not considered to be rowels and may be mounted vertically or horizontally. Dummy spurs with smooth arms and no shank are also allowed. We also sometimes have eventing tests at the show, so I have to keep in mind that sometimes the tack is just a little bit different. Okay. Spurs. Oh, this is the next page. Spurs must be worn in matching pairs. So you have to wear two. Spur covers are permitted. That's that little, keeps them in place. No spurs other than those listed here are allowed anywhere on the grounds. And children riding ponies. I think that might be on the next page. Yes. Junior athletes mounted on ponies may not use rowel spurs. And there's for FEI pony, I didn't know, maybe I did put in here. They're really the little short ones are the only ones they can use. Spurs can only be, this is the length of the spur, 5 centimeters, and it is long. Every now and then I'll look at a spur and think, oh my gosh, that is long. And I get my little ruler out. I don't necessarily have to go over and I can just kind of size it up. Sometimes I'll measure them, and many of them I've measured before. So hook-on spurs with rowels must have rowel positioned vertically to the ground. So anyway, okay, I think that's the spurs. I don't know if there's any more about spurs. Hair, I just put this in here because sometimes people don't know, because this rule is in the dressage book. Long hair must be secured with a hair net or tied back in a braid or a bun. Braiding, it's optional. Don't have to do it. Some judges feel that it's a sign of respect if you braided your horse, just to let you know. I hear all these little things from judges. Says what you can use: white, black, colored, thread. I wouldn't go with anything too bright. Elastic bands are permitted. Braiding wire is permitted. Braiding bands are permitted, including decorated bands that have a smooth base and do not have any sharp edges. Any decoration of a horse with extravagant items such as ribbons or flowers in a mane or tail are strictly forbidden, but you can put a red ribbon in their tail if you know they need a red ribbon. I'm going to tell you a little story. It was in Newfoundland, and they were warming up inside, and there was a horse warming up, and I didn't notice it until they got outside, and the sun hit the crystals that were on the braids, and they shone just like stars. Kind of caught me off guard. Anyway, I ran and talked to her after a test and said, you have to take those out. Just, they were very pretty, but anyway. Whips, another thing. I will measure your whip at least once, and then I will say if you're still carrying the same one, because I see people over and over again. Horse is 120 centimeters long from tip to tip, from even the end of the little fob, and a pony is 100 centimeters. They're not allowed to be carried in championships, so some people will drop them before they go in the arena. And anything else there? Not allowed to use telescopic whips. I've never seen one, or I've never known that it was one, but I don't think I've ever seen one. Following whips are permitted in the schooling area. You're allowed to use lunge whip when lunging an unmounted horse. Competing athlete mounted on a horse may be assisted on the ground using a whip no longer than 1.80 meter. meters, including lash, to be used only by one person on the ground for in-hand work only. I've never actually run into that to show myself, but I assume it does happen. Medical dispensation for short-term injuries. Okay, so if you have hurt yourself and maybe you have a permission from your doctor to ride, but for some reason you can't get your jacket on, or you can get a letter from your doctor to have permission to have a wardrobe change, I'll say, to make it easier, and provide that letter to the steward at the competition. Okay. Tack check again. I think we kind of went over that, about the random checks. Just, I know everybody wants to talk to you. Your coach wants to coach you when you come out to the gate and everything, but you're really supposed to come to the steward. And don't miss your tack check, because if you do, you can be eliminated. And here it is here. I guess I put it in there lots of slides, Deanna, but some of them are the same. So I think I've talked about this enough. Okay, tack check steward. Representative is responsible for ensuring that the saddlery dress regulations are followed. Steward may ask for ear covers, nose nets to be removed, and boots or bandages if used. Now, boots and bandages are allowed in the bronze level, but not in silver or gold or platinum. Tack checks athletes may be asked to dismount to inspect their headgear. And the athlete, come to me anytime if you have a bit or something that you're not sure about before your test. Like, come and ask me the question, and I will answer it the best of my ability. I might say, come back, or I'll find you and I'll look this up if it's something that I've never seen before. There are so many new bridles and bits around. I just got an app from FEI that has all the FEI stuff, bits and bridles, and it has every discipline. I've got it on my phone. I'm trying to be a little techie. Okay. Still on tack. Okay. An athlete who is eliminated or retired during a test must still report to the steward for a tack check. You must still come to the steward. And an athlete, as I said, I would even check you before you went in if you wanted me to, just if you thought there was something that you weren't sure about. And a steward may check dubious equipment at any time. If I see in the warm-up ring and I see something that I think maybe isn't something you should have, I will approach you and so that you can change it before you go in the competition area. That's where I'm helping you. In addition to these tack and equipment rules for additional, okay, so these are, one is a USEF, and they have them in the rule book. And I encourage you, you don't have to buy the rule books. EC has rule books. I download them in the PDF form, and I take those to the shows too on my tablet, but I have them on my computer, and you can just click on these links there. There's also a search thing. You can put in words and it'll find them. If you spell them right, helps too. Bridle saddlery equipment rules apply in the warm-up ring as well as in the competition. And this is, I guess, the next page. Bridle must consist of a bit or bits, reins, crown piece, cheek piece, nose band, brow band, and throat latch. Throat latch jowl strap is required except when combined nose band and a Micklem bridle is used. All these new bridles, anyway, although they've been around now for a little while. The crown piece of the bridle must lay immediately behind the pole and may extend forward onto the pole and must not be fitted to lie behind the skull. And there's a lot of those too. So if you went on some of these sites and looked at all these pictures, you see some of these things, and like I said, getting complicated. Elastic inserts are permitted in the crown piece and the cheek pieces. All bridles must be correctly fitted. Okay. Reins. I put this in here. Continuous, unrestricted, uninterrupted strap or line connecting the bit to the hand. Each bit must be attached to a separate rein, and reins may only be attached to bits. Rein additions or attachments are prohibited. Reins may be made out of leather-like, webbing, rubberized, rubber covered on the inside. Rein stops may be present, but reins must not, this is new, this here. Reins must not be made of rope or rope-like material. So somebody must come to a show with them. Anyway, sometimes if you see new rules because somebody was at a show with them. Anyway, type of rein is optional. Attached to the bit may be by a buckle, stud, or ring, but reins with hand loops, elastic right in the reins, or stretchy rubber inserts of any other attachment are prohibited. I think I need to read the rest of that. Bitless bridles are still not permitted. Padding is allowed. No decorative covers are allowed over bridle buckles or where brow bands meet the headstall. Here, I mean, you can have all your fancy stuff up here. Brow bands are permitted unless the chain is a decoration that adheres to the solid band of the material. Chain brow bands are not permitted. Oh, sorry. Chain brow bands are not permitted unless the chain is, so you can't just have chain. It has to be over leather, as long as there's leather under it. Decorated colored brow bands are permitted if the decoration adheres to the solid brand of the material again. Anyway, small name tags are permitted, but no other bobbly stuff is allowed. Okay. Micklem bridles may be used at any level with a snaffle, but they're not, let me see, they are not permitted for use with double bridle, and bit clips or lunging rings are not permitted. Metal clips are permitted on throat latch or cheek attachments of anatomical bridles, but not permitted on bits or bit rings. Complicated, like I said, this is complicated. Snaffle bridles, I don't really want to read through all of this. They're required at certain levels, and they also can be used at higher levels now, which is nice to see. So you don't have to, anyway, so you don't have to go into the double bridle. What, I can't remember what, go back a slide there. Snaffle bridles can be used up to first, second level. Optional at third level and Grand Prix. There, snaffle bridle. And then move on to the double bridle. Double bridle, lot in the horse's mouth. Have to be very careful, make sure to check in between and all that stuff. Make sure everything's good. Okay, next one. Double bridles have a cavesson. Somebody had a picture online of a double bridle with a drop nose band, and I thought, well, you know, that is absolutely not allowed. I don't even know why that would be much too restrictive. Comfort nose band with throat latch and a bradoon and a curb with curb chain. So we check to make sure that the curb chain's not too tight and everything's fitting properly. Okay. Nose bands. Nose bands must not be over tight. It must be possible to place a third. Now this is what is in the rule book. So this picture here actually is, I do check there, but if anybody like was going to challenge about the tightness of a nose band, what it says in our rule book is it must be possible to place at least one finger between the horse's cheek and the noseband. So that's over here on the side of the face. I don't really think I would rather this be like at the front of the nose. Nosebands must never be used in such a way that they interfere with the horse's breathing. If it is deemed to be tight enough to cause pain or discomfort when presented at a tack check or seen in a warm-up or anywhere on the event location, the steward or her appointee will consult with the judge and ask the athlete to loosen it before riding any further tests. Sometimes I have messages from the judge to check such a horse, or if I have. Failure to comply with this request will result in disqualification. Nosebands again. Nosebands used in such a way that they interfere with the horse's breathing. Yeah, that's not allowed. And there are, in the rule book, there's FEI rules about nosebands, it refers to. So I looked up the rule, and FEI has brought in a noseband gauge. So I assume it will come down the pipe to us sometime. But FEI has introduced this noseband gauge. Noseband must be adjusted with sufficient laxity as determined by the FEI approved measuring device. And this device, the one that I used when I did the test, it just slid in and you pulled it out, but this one slides right through. And I think it's a little more flexible. And when I was on that thing they did with the nose bands, I had no problems checking any horses. They were all quite, easy to check. Nobody made a fuss or was scared or anything. They were good. Anyway, so I expect this will come into effect. And I put this note at the bottom here. Just because the bridle comes with a flash noseband, it does not mean you have to use it. Because some people think that has it there, must have to use it, but you can take it off. Just some pictures of some different, these were the most common that were around. Your regular Cavison noseband, your drop noseband, a flash noseband, or figure 8 cross noseband. Now there's all these new ones. So next page. Oh, I put this in here, the French link. Just about every year I have, and I have people say, oh no, you're not allowed to use French links and da-da-da. Anyway, the French link, for some reason, USEF have banned the use of French link in dressage. And they actually say the JP Metalab French link bit, and a JP is a brand, so I don't know why they say that, but it is in our rule book, EC, it's allowed to be used, and it's allowed to be used in FEI. So I've got that out there now. Bits and diagrams. So the rule book has a whole bunch of pictures of bits that are allowed. So we go by the example, and it says that they're the only ones that are allowed to be used, but it also says they're that if they are similar in design, they are allowed to be used. So we have to kind of use our own common sense for that. This can, there's all the different cheek pieces, like the hanging cheek pieces and I'm lost for words, D-ring or a loose ring or a egg butt, or I can go on and on and on. They're allowed with but the bit must be smooth. It must be smooth. And it can only have 2 joints. Can't have 3 joints. It can only have 2 joints in the middle. So you get all those ones with all the little rollers and things. I hope you can't use those. Anyway, you can look at the pictures. The app has all kinds of them. And locking snaffles are not allowed. All bits must be smooth with a solid surface, no sharp edges. on the center link. Snaffles and curb bits with smooth ridges are permitted. So they can have a little curb in them. Bits must not place mechanical restraint on the tongue. And one that's not allowed, it was on the other page, but is a Dr. Bristol. It's got kind of a square plate in the middle, and the way it's set on the, when you pull back, it kind of digs into their tongue. So that's not permitted. Corkscrew, twisted bits are not permitted. Bits may contain more than one metal. I know at one time they had to be one solid type of metal. You couldn't have any inlay or copper. It had to be just one metal, so that changed. Snaffle bits must be made of metal, durable plastic, synthetic material, or rubberized plastic. So sometimes there's bits that have a little rubber thing in the middle of it, and they're okay. Bits with manufactured rubber covered center links are permitted. That's it right there. I have to have a drink of water. Halberdoon or curb bits must be made of metal, durable plastic, or synthetic material, and may be covered with rubber latex. Curb snaffles and bradoons are permitted. Mouthpieces, only 2 joints. A bushing or coupling is permitted in the center, something that goes around, of the double jointed snaffle. However, the surface of the centerpiece must be solid with no movable parts other than a roller. And this just goes into, I'm not going to read it all the different rings that you can have your mouthpiece attached to that are allowed. Even you can have the ones that have a little sleeve on them. They can't be a gag, but it can have a little sleeve on it. One thing you're not allowed to use, or maybe I'll wait till we get there. Bits are made out of metal. This is kind of repeating itself. So bits must not place a mechanical restraint on the horse's mouth. There's also a measure for the ring. It can be too big or too small. So I kind of watch for that. If I have to measure, I haven't measured too many. Most of them are just get my little gauge out and look at it and kind of walk by the person and think, well, that's okay. And for young horses, it's a different diameter. Like I said, if you want to know, you'd go in your rule book. It's there for you to use. Or you can ask me. I'll give you my email when we're done if you want it. Upper cheek piece must not exceed 5 centimeters or be longer than the curb lever arm measure below the mouthpiece, which should not be more than 10 centimeters than the mouthpiece is in the uppermost portion. So another thing, bit dimensions and this is new here on the bottom. The upper cheek of the hanging bits, the brochure snaffle, measured from the top of the cheek mouthpiece to the bottom of the upper cheek, may not exceed 7 centimeters. So that is something new. Sorry, I have family home this weekend. I'm in my kitchen. Okay, next page. Here again, this is your USEF portal that you can go into to look at they have lots of pictures. And the bottom one is the FEI TAC app. So that's good too. But even what's on these pages, if it's something different in our EC rulebook, we go by what's in our EC rulebook. So tongue ties are not allowed. Absolutely, disqualification. Saddles, up to a certain level, an English saddle. After you get up to higher levels, you should have your dressage saddle to use. And I don't think I need to go in that. Can't have a horn, can't have a swell or a galleria. I thought I had to look that up. Sometimes I have to look things up. So I'm not sure what they are. The internet is great. Australian Baroque endurance McClellan, Spanish stock, or Western saddles are not permitted. I think that's just a given. Leather or fabric synthetic saddles are permitted. Saddle covers, you know those little gel saddle covers? You're not allowed to use those. That's one thing I every now and then think it would be comfortable for some riders. I know one rider who actually stopped riding because she had a bad back, and if she could have used a gel pad cover on the top, she would have continued. So that would be maybe something I've thought about putting in a rule change proposed. Anyway, maybe somebody else do that. Okay, saddle pads. Saddle pads. So a few years ago when the USEF came out with all the colors you could use, and saddle pads were in there, and they had a color wheel and all kinds of hues and things, but our rule book says if a saddle pad is used, it must be solid white, off-white, gray, black, or other conservative color. So just be careful that if you choose a color, it's nothing too bright or not, stay conservative. Just anyway, may have piping of a different color to the pad. Striped or multicolor pads are not permitted. Anyway, soft handhold panel strap is allowed. In another spot it talks about it being a bucking strap, but anyway, so you're still allowed to have your little, some people give it other names. Stirrups. It just says any color. I've seen different colors, but I would still stick with being conservative. Must hang loose, can't be tied to anything. You can't be tied to them. They must be able to release, and you can have safety stirrups. The boot foot of the athlete must not be fully or partially enclosed and must in no way be attached to the stirrup. I already said that. Ahead of myself. Okay. Allowed in the warm-up area, forbidden in the competition area. Okay, allowed the boots, leg wraps in the competition area. If you're in gold and silver, you must take them off. You're allowed to wear them in bronze. Running martingales with stoppers are allowed in the warm-up ring. Only unmounted horses to be lunged in this specific area. So, allowed in the warm-up area only, forbidden in competition still. Nasal strips. I haven't seen anybody use those yet, but two-way communication devices. We already talked about that. Only one ear. And because you might be able to want to hear me yelling at you. Removable boots. So they're only allowed, you have to take them off. Now, this is new, neck straps. Last year, and I saw people, you could use them in the competition ring, but you can't anymore. You're only allowed to use them in the warm-up ring. So, approved for competition but require permission. Net relief masks are permitted for documented head shakers. I haven't seen any yet. Anyway, I haven't seen any yet. But you must have submitted written permission from your veterinarian to use them, and you'd have to take that to the competition office, and it must go to the steward, and so the judge will know also. Athletes with documented, I talked about this already, can hearing impairment can use earbuds and the caller can call, but they must have notified steward. Everybody must know, and there must be somebody standing next to them, so they're not giving them riding lesson. Okay. Breastplates, foregirths, bucking straps. I think that's the little handle. Girth covers, sternum relief, girth, sternum relief pads, ergon girths, and cruppers. Okay. Approved for competition, no permission required. Ear hoods are permitted, and they also can have noise reduction. But they may not be attached to the noseband. You get the ones that you get and fasten the noseband. They're not allowed to be used. And they also should be color that will be discreet. will blend in with your horse. You know, if you have a chestnut horse, you don't want to have a pair of white ears on it. So it should be, if you have a chestnut horse, you should have maybe brown or black, maybe. But anyway, just make sure it's a discrete color. Fly armor protection permitted only on the crown piece of the noseband. And the steward may check that, okay? Non-restricted nose fly guards. So those are the ones that just hang down over the nose. If glue-on shoes are used, they must be of a neutral or black color. If anybody uses on, don't use pink ones. After completion of the test, an athlete or their representative is responsible for removing the ear net, fly hood, fly guard, ear covers, if requested by the steward. Tack which is designed to facilitate the comfort of the horse or safety of the athlete in a competition area or warm-up area is permitted as long as it does not contravene Equestrian Canada's tack rules. Not permitted are gadgets designed to affect the performance of the horse. Bit burrs aren't allowed, by the way, either, or bit guards. Martingales are equipment forbidden to be used on the showgrounds. Martingales other than running. Bit guards, bit burrs, tongue ties, gadgets, such as bearing reins, sign reins, balancing reins. Blinkers are not allowed. Earplugs. Illegal spurs forbidden to be used on the showgrounds anywhere, and can include, you could be elimination or disqualified. The use of belly bands is forbidden in dressage. That's a belly band right there in that picture, if you didn't know what one looked like. Okay. Trying to go through, I know there's a lot here, so I'm trying to get through it. Equipment forbidden, again, any piece of tack that impairs the ears to move forward freely or is forbidden. I've never seen anybody use that, but any equipment which is designed to facilitate the comfort of the horse, again, is permitted in the stable area. Like if you're in the stable area and your horse doesn't, the noise is bothering you, can use earplugs in the stable area. And you can also, the tape that they put on horses is only allowed in the stabling area. So if you're going to take your horse for a walk, you have to take it off. Boots and bandages, I think we went through that. So, muddy. So in the event extreme muddy weather, permission can be given by the competition to use boots or bandages. But, and then they have to let everybody know. No, they have to make sure everybody knows, or they have to announce it, that they are allowed to be used. So, and the steward may, but is not obligated to inform all the athletes, but the competition will, announce and make it as known as well as possible. So this is their option. They're supposed to post that it's an option to wear the bandages if the footing is unstable. Okay, it is to be understood that the organizing committee, judges, and stewards are not responsible for any injury that may occur while riding in footing deemed unstable, regardless of the opinions given to protect the horse's legs. Options given to protect the horse's legs, so it's kind of up to you. Sometimes if it was bad enough, the competition, could suspend the show. Stewards may have any boots or bandages removed as part of the tack check. Okay. Oh, these are the nose guards that some horses wear, and I have seen these, and they are allowed. Okay. In the event of equipment breaking or horse casting a shoe during judging of a class, no timeout is permitted. Just keep going if you can. In the event of equipment breaking or horse casting a shoe during a warm-up, a judge may permit rescheduling. I just kind of wanted to put that in there. The size of your arena, everybody knows, 20 by 60. Para tests are done in a 20 by 40, and eventing tests, most of the ones that we would do at a dressage show here, the lower level ones are done in 20 by 40, so sometimes the competition will have to change the size of the ring. Indoor outdoor arenas, you have limited space, like the PLP, so you're allowed to go inside the arena to warm up. We don't ask you to come out and go back in again. When the bell rings, you just go back around and start your test, and you have 45 seconds to start the test after the bell rings. Okay. Dangerous and unruly horses. I put this here so you know who was responsible for what. What goes on in the competition ring is the judges. That's their call. Judges are required to eliminate from the arena any unruly horse whose actions threaten the competitors, officials, or spectators. The senior steward is required to order from the warm-up area any athlete, horse, or handler who exhibits inappropriate or dangerous behavior or whose actions would in any way threaten the safety of any competitor, their entries, or the safety of others in the immediate area. In extreme cases where the safety of horse is a concern, the senior steward may eliminate any athlete, horse, or handler from the showgrounds. I'm glad I haven't had to do that yet. Elimination. What's an elimination? Elimination from any further participation in the class. So that's when if you're eliminated from that class. It doesn't mean you're. So next is then disqualification. If you're disqualified from the whole competition. So I just wanted to. So elimination. Try to go through this quick, but these are things you can be eliminated for at a dressage show. Evidence of blood on your horse. Contravention of the dress rules. Failure to submit to the tack check. This also applies to athletes identified for a tack check if the competition is holding random tack checks. So, next page, get the next ones. Unauthorized assistance. Don't be making any signals to somebody in the ring or talking to them or chirping to the horse or anything. That's unauthorized assistance. 3 errors on course, you can be eliminated. Resistance of more than 20 seconds on a test. Fall of horse or athlete. That means you hit the ground completely. Dangerous, unruly horse. All 4 feet leaving the arena. Used to be ponies tests. Like to do that sometimes if they're not used to it, especially if they've done any jumping. They just see the little fence and go over it. So elimination for exceeding 30 seconds to enter start of the music of a freestyle. Dismounting during a dressage test. Score less than 40%. You are eliminated from that class. Carrying a whip into the competition for a championship. Second offense at a given competition for not wearing your assigned number in the competition. Taking more than 90 seconds to enter the arena at A after the start signal. That's if you're outside. Okay. Lameness. So this is a judge's call. In the case of lameness, which shall include marked unevenness or irregularity, the judge at C informs the competitor that they are eliminated and must report directly to the steward for tack check. There is no appeal against this decision. In the case of two eliminations of lameness on the same day, a horse may not compete until the next day of the competition and may not be ridden in the warm-up area until the next day of the competition. Show organizers or scorers are responsible for communicating to the steward when a horse has been eliminated for lameness. A fall. I think we talked about this already. If you fall off, you have to be checked. You're not allowed to mount your horse again. You have to lead your horse out of the ring, and then you have to be checked. Probably we've come in the ring with first aid and we're checking in there anyway. So, but don't get back on your horse and ride out. Leaving the arena during a dressage test. A horse leaving the arena. Okay, we already talked about that too. Resistance. Any resistance prevents for 20 seconds. I think we had that already. 20 seconds of resistance, a horse resisting the rider, they can be eliminated. Okay. Outside assistance, I've already talked about that. Disqualification. Disciplinary action prohibiting a competitor or entry from any further participation for the duration of the competition, and usually requiring the forfeiture of all winnings and loss of entry fees. So that's disqualification as compared to elimination. And that can happen for misrepresentation of the entry form, on the entry form, abuse or cruelty, horse's tongue that has been tied. Oh, there's a tongue tie. Competitors shall be disqualified under the following circumstances. Possible disqualification at the discretion of the ground jury for second offense of horse handler not wearing a sign number. So make sure you have your number on. Competitor may be disqualified for use of illegal equipment at any time on the show grounds. Okay, horse recordings. I just thought this was interesting, and it's been in the book now, at least last year's book. As of December the 1st, 2027, all equines, including those owned, leased, domestic, and imported, competing in EC gold and silver sanctioned competitions must be microchipped. So EC sent out a thing about this earlier this year. I meant to look it up and then I forgot. But anyway, just sort of keep that in mind. And apparently you can apply to get the microchips. And then when your vet comes, they can put them in or talk to your vet and maybe they have. Anyway, I just thought that was something maybe to bring to people's attention. So I'm on to new rules. Environmental conditions, and this is like if it's really hot or really raining hard, we must pay attention to that. Thunder and lightning, keep people in just for safety. And now I have a little heat index thing. It says down here, not limited temperature, heat index and air quality. And I have a heat index thing, or whether I can ever figure out how to use it, I don't know. Anyway, I'll try. But the extreme heat can be bad. Biosecurity regarding your horse. If you knowingly bring a horse to a competition that's been sick, you can be in a lot of trouble. Really, you can't do that. And if you have a horse that has a temperature, I know we don't. Some shows require you to take the horse's temperature, and I think the bigger horse shows get that it'll become mandatory. And if your horse exhibits a temperature, cough, or develops this at the competition, you must go to the office and tell the organizing committee. For biosecurity, because you just don't want to be spreading this around, and your horse will probably be isolated the best that they can. Horse shows have a plan for biosecurity in the event that this happens, that something like this were to happen. Hopefully it never does. Okay, here's the temperature. that has a fever over 38.8, which is 102. So failure. So this is an offense if you have failure to report this to the show office. So you must report it to the show office. Okay. This bit is now illegal. It's in the crossed out. It was in the rule book last year that it could be used, but now it is illegal for EC. So these are some new rules that I hung in there so you knew. Okay. Next strap, that's there. I already talked about that. Allowed in the warm-up ring, but not in the competition area. Approved for competition, but requiring permission, net relief masks are permitted for documented head shakers. And that, we talked about that previously too. So I don't think we need to talk about that again. And I talked about these too. So they're only permitted in the stabling area if you use them, but forbidden on the showgrounds, but you can use them in your stall. Videographers, I thought this was kind of interesting. Videographers, photographers may not enter inside any warm-up or field of play. Now, there's an unwritten rule in Atlantic Canada, I think it's all over the shows here and PEI, that coaches, when there's horses riding in the ring, don't go in and coach them within the ring. They stand outside of the warm-up ring and coach them from outside the warm-up ring. It's already enough people, you know, if you have several riders in the warm-up ring, it's already enough, let alone having a bunch of coaches standing in there. So this just made me think of that. I wanted to talk about that. Field of play. To avoid distracting horses, competitors, officials, and spectators, they may only operate from outside of the warm-up field of play. No non-accredited photographer or videographer is allowed within the identified space, except competitions that have approved a stationary videographer photographer that has also been present for any official scheduled familiarization for all competitors. This also applies to connecting area between the warm-up ring and field of play. So they're allowed in certain areas. I still haven't quite wrapped my head around this one, but I'll get it figured out. Voice, I thought this was interesting. New. The use of loud voice or clicking the tongue repeatedly is a serious fault and must be penalized by the deduction of at least 2 mark points from the movement in which it occurs. The use of an inappropriate voice will include a deduction of a point each time it is used, but does not consist elimination, nor should it be scored as an error of test or error of course. For example, a judge awarding 8 to a movement must deduct 2 points or more from the given mark. So I thought that was kind of an interesting change, because I think it was like a real no-no. Okay, coaches status. I really wanted to talk about this. EC brought in the coaches status. It's all to do with safe sport, and that EC's a national sport organization, and as other sport organizations in the country, hockey, football, whatever, baseball, wrestling, figure skating, get federal money. So we have to, and safe sport has to do with, well, we know what's gone on for years and years and years, abuse in different ways. So competition organizations are required to validate that all coaches at EC sanctioned competitions hold licensed coach status, or that they have purchased a temporary status for each event. They do so with a it tells you how you can get it. While stewards also have the capacity to check and validate coach status, it is not an expectation or requirement of their role. So it's not my job to make sure that you have it. It's up to the office. The competition office is to check that the person written down has that sport license. and they can do that online. So that's up to the competition officer, and it needs to be written in there. Okay, next, there's just a few questions like FAQ for this that people don't seem to understand. And one of them, I'm self-coached. Do I need a coach's status? No, you don't. If you're self-coached, you don't need to buy your coach status, coach license, whatever you want to call it. You're self-coached at an event, and if you do not have a coach that attends with you, all athletes, regardless of age, it doesn't matter how old you are, or sport license type, or level, or event, are permitted to be self-coached. Simple indicate self-coached on the entry form. Somebody, you're making a lot of noise. Anyway, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm a parent. This is one that's confusing. I am a parent, guardian, assist my child at shows. Do I need a coach status or to buy a temporary status? A parent, family member, or friend is only considered a coach if the definition as outlined in the coach status program applies to their relationship. Within the program, a coach refers to all individuals who provide instruction, coaching, or training to a human participant for the purpose of learning equestrianism. A person helping an athlete in a non-coaching capacity, such as setting up fences in a warm-up ring, only as directed by the athlete. Providing grooming service or offering emotional support is not considered a coach and is not subject to EC coach status requirements. So if you're there, mom or cousin or grandmother or whoever, you can set up jumps, you can hold their horse, but you can't be saying, Sally, you're on the wrong lead, or you can't be coaching them in any way. And the next one was, what are the consequences of coaches not having coaching status? Well, currently the validation of coach status is not digital anyway. EC sanctioned events are manually verified coach status. If an athlete provides the name of a coach on their entry form that does not hold the appropriate status, license, blah, 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 then the coach will not be in compliance with EC rules, and consequences will be determined for both coach, and there include point in invalidation or enforcement, or not in good standing status and not be permitted to participate. I know that this has been a little bit contentious, but if something were to happen at a competition, or a coach is doing something, or somebody's there coaching a child, you need to be able to make them stand, hold them to consequences, because if they're not a member or have of EC or then there's nothing you can do. This is a way to enforce the rules, and if they don't, you can't make them people accountable if they don't have a sport license. What if somebody puts a coach's name on the entry form, but they're not their coach? And I have actually heard of this happening. So don't put somebody else's name down who's not there, or don't put your coach's name down and have somebody else coach you there. Or, if someone is found to do that, it's false information, and you may have some consequences that, you don't want. So, etiquette. This is just my tail end of this. The last time I just talked about it. Dress properly. Be nice and clean, at your show. Next page. I'm just going to go over this quick. I know it's been long. Make sure your horse is nice and clean. Be courteous to other riders. This talks about, like, if you're in a group, left to left, if you're passing somebody in the warm-up ring. In dressage, be aware of the other horses around you, especially if maybe you're not in for a while, maybe just give the other person a little bit of room if they're in next. Just watch out, keep an eye out for one another. Um, be prompt, be ready to go in your ring. You have a time, everybody's usual. Keep track of that. Make sure you get in the ring when you need to. Enter and leave the ring. Don't crowd around especially don't crowd the in gate. Don't crowd the out gate. Don't crowd the tack check area, which is kind of in between at the PLP. Never talk back to an official. That'll get you in trouble fast. Especially the steward, she's cranky. Okay, some of this talks about, yeah, I'm just sort of looking at this. Don't be disruptive. Like I said again, if your horse is being disruptive in the warm-up ring, you can just take yourself out of it and be conscious of other people. You don't want to cause any problems for other people if they're misbehaving. You can excuse yourself too. When it comes to show, be prepared for the occasional disappointment. I mean, they're animals, things go wrong, and don't blame your horse. They're flight animals. We have to keep that in mind. And things happen. If we didn't, we love the sport because they are animals and we love the horses. When I'm at a show, respect the volunteers, the competition organizers. They've put a lot of work into putting that show on, and things sometimes don't always go. They're not perfect, or you may not think they're perfect or whatever, but they've worked hard to make it work the best that they can. And it's hard to find volunteers at shows. I know all about it. I've been there. I've been a show secretary. I've been a competitor. So I know all about it. And the last thing I want to say is my goal at a show is that everybody's had a good experience. Everybody, all of you. Show office, whole works. Anyway, thank you. Hope it wasn't too long.
No, that's great. No, it's lots of information. And we know that when we go to Rio sanctioned competitions, there are rules and regulations. And again, we need to keep reminding ourselves to familiarize ourselves with the rule book. And like I said, there's great officials at all the competitions who are really willing to help and assist. And if you're not working with a competition coach, well, then you as a rider need to familiarize yourself, with the rules. Are there any questions at this time that we can give you? As mentioned, we can share. Nancy or Dawn, can you put Dawn's email in the chat? Is that possible? Do you know how to do that,
Oh,
Dawn?
Sure can.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nancy can do that. But
okay.
anyway, I would like to thank you all for attending. And, the first dressage show is, what is that, May 17th or something? So it's like 6 or 7 weeks away. And this is a good reminder of just brushing up on the rules and trying to, on the off season, keep making us better riders and better horse people. And reviewing the rules is a really good time to do that. And so that's why I thought, wow, well, that was when the sun was shining a couple of weeks ago. And now it's now all we keep having is snow. But we've been getting good attendance because people have been in because the weather hasn't been that great. But I do want to thank Dawn for putting the material together. I want to thank you all for attending, and I really wish you much success in your competition year. And also for those people that are continuing to ride and maybe not show, but putting their foot in the stirrup and getting on a horse and staying in the horse industry. We really appreciate that. And again, as you keep riding and staying involved, if you're interested in becoming an official, whether that's a dressage judge or a steward or something, please contact the NBEA office if you'd like to start your journey. We have some new stewards in the province. And Dawn's been a great mentor to them. So it's something you might want to start getting involved in. We're looking for more officials in the province as well. So if there are no questions, and we put the Dawn's email in the chat, it's there for everyone. So this was also recorded. So it will be up on the NBEA website as well. So if there are no other questions, then I would say good night and thank you. Thanks again, Dawn.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Don.
Bye. You're welcome. See you at Joe's.
Sure will.